Hi y'all, and welcome back to the garden. So I'm excited about today's video because we're starting to talk about plants and some plants I'll be trialing this year. So this video is specifically about some proven winners plants I'll be trialing. I am getting some plants from first edition Shrubs also in May, so that will be a separate video. I want to talk a little bit about my relationship with Proven Winners. I'm not sponsored or affiliated with Proven Winners, but a couple years ago, the first year I started my channel, I was planting a lot of Proven Winners shrubs. As you know, I have a lot of Proven Winner shrubs, and that's primarily because that's a lot of what the garden centers sell around here. And also Proven Winners does an incredible job of breeding shrubs that stay tiny. So they take those really big shrubs that generally get really massive in the garden, and for someone that lives in a subdivision on a quarter or a third of an acre lot, having small shrubs so I can have a lot of variety is really important to me. They've also done really great in my garden. So in the south, you'll find a lot of southern living shrubs. Proven Winners is the brand that does a lot of the breeding themselves. And so there's multiple subdivisions of Proven Winners. The shrub line comes from Spring Meadow Nursery, and so I got connected with a employee there called Natalie, a really great person. I met her last year at Cultivate for the first time, but in 2021 I got connected with her and she sent me two shrubs to trial in 2021. Last year I did a video in the fall of some additional shrubs that she sent me, so I got a little few more. And early winter she reached out to me and was like, hey, we're gonna have some things to send out. These aren't necessarily new plants, but they're plants. She gave me a whole listing of probably 15 to 20 plants that I could pick. And so I picked some from that. Some of them I already had. And I'm going to be going over less than 10 today that I'm going to be adding to my garden. But I'm really excited about them because they're different. I've not seen them locally yet, so a couple of them are new. A couple of them are a few years older, but they're not located in local garden centers. That'll give me a chance to trial them. And if I really like them, I can mention it to my local garden centers and say, hey, you can consider adding this. So this video is not sponsored by Proven Winners. I'm not really affiliated with Proven Winners, but I wanted to put that out there because you'll see me from time to time talk a lot about Proven Winners, and that's just because they've been really good to me. Proven Winners also has a catalog called Gardening Simplified. I think I got a couple copies of this because I've ordered under multiple email addresses directly from Proven Winners before. If you've not got a copy of this and you're new to gardening, it's a really great beginner's guide to a lot of their shrubs and a lot of how just generally to design gardens. So it goes over ground covers, layering, and that type thing. You'll find a lot of shrubs in here that I have never talked about in my garden, which I highly encourage you to check out their website because I garden in Zone 6. I am originally from Alabama, and that's mostly Zone 7 where I was from, Zone 8. So there's a lot of shrubs in here that would not survive in Zone 6 that Proven Winners has bred for lower zones. You know I love their hydrangeas, so they've got a few more hydrangeas coming out this year I'll be talking about. But this is a great catalog if you're a beginner gardener, or if you're not, and you just want to learn a little more about their shrub business, because this is specifically from Spring Meadow Nursery. So the first one I'm going to go over is Sugartina Crystalina, and it is a Summersweet. If you've been following along last year when I did a renovation on the south side of the house, you know I planted a Ruby Spice Summersweet. Ruby Spice has these beautiful ruby pink blooms, and Sugartina Crystalina is a smaller version of Summersweet because Summersweet can get pretty big, and it only gets 2.5 to 3 foot tall and wide. Great in zones 4 through 9. And what I'm going to do with it, I requested 3 of them, and I'm going to put them between my oaks here. Right now I have some Proudberry coral berries, which you know is one of my favorite fall shrubs, but because I have several of those already, I'm going to be moving those out elsewhere and doing an oak, a Sugartina, an oak, a Sugartina. It has bright yellow foliage in fall, so it'll match the oaks that I have there too. So we'll have a great yellow structure upright, and then we'll have a smaller shrub in between. And then I have all of the heuchera and the boxwoods that I planted around there as well. The second shrub that I've not seen locally really is Fizzy Mizzy Sweet Spire. So Fizzy Mizzy is what they call sometimes a bottle brush plant. So the actual flowers look like bottle brushes, and it has a really beautiful fragrance. And so I Selected one of these. It's hardy in zones 5 through 9, so pretty good range there. Below me to zone 5 and all the way up through 9, which is some of the hottest parts of the United States. And it gets 2 to 3 foot tall and wide, so it's also a really nice small shrub for you to be able to tuck into your landscape. One that I mentioned in the fall or early winter when I was shooting some videos after Natalie had sent me this list of things to pick out is Centara Double Blue Lilac. I don't have any lilacs in my garden. My first experience with lilac was before I really got into gardening, and before we had redone this patio. I purchased 3 online. They were really small. They came and I planted them and they didn't grow very much. I moved them and I never got any blooms off of those because we have our late freezes here in Southwest Ohio, and the freezes would always consistently kill the buds on these plants. And so I never had a great experience with lilacs in my garden. And so I asked Natalie, I was like, before you send me this, will it bloom well in my garden? And I explained the issues I'd had with late freezes here and then just not getting great blooms out of them. And she said it should bloom pretty well for me. So we're going to be testing this one out in my garden. And if it blooms for me, I think it'll do well for you. So over here, also where the oaks are, there's a spot where there are no oaks, and I'm going to put it right there. It should get really big. 6 to 8 foot tall and wide, hardy in zones 2 through 8, so an incredible range of hardiness there, all the way from Ohio, way above Ohio into Canada, and down through Alabama. Should be fine for you. The hottest parts of the country, maybe in California or Arizona, it does not go up to zone 9, so you may not be able to grow it there. It may just need more water. So with it being close to the patio, I kind of wanted to place this because it is going to get large eventually, and if it blooms well for me, that fragrance will kind of waft into where I'm sitting in the patio, because it's only like 15-20 foot from where I'm going to be planting it to where I'm sitting right now, and the breeze kind of blows around the house, so that'll be really nice, I think. One I've talked about before, but I wanted another in my garden while Natalie gave me a chance, is Steady Eddy Viburnum. So Steady Eddy is a double file viburnum, and you know those viburnums could get really big. So Steady Eddy is a smaller, shrunk down version of that. It only gets 4 to 5 foot tall and wide. And if you can't grow hydrangeas well in your garden, this is a good opportunity to try something that's going to look very similar for you. It is a lace cap type bloom, and so it has the blooms on top, solid white blooms, beautiful structure. The leaves have a really nice texture to them. Now, I've had Steady Eddy in my garden for 2 years now. The first year I purchased it from Great Garden Plants, so it was a tiny little 4-inch container. I had bunnies eat it to the ground that first winter in the garden, and it came back last year and I had 1 single bloom. And this is its 3rd year in the garden, so I'm hoping that it will put on a lot more growth and be much more beautiful. But Steady Eddy I specifically picked out. I think I'm going to put it up front around the Bracken's Brown Beauty Magnolia that I'm getting. So it will have some beautiful hydrangea type blooms up there in early spring, and I'm just really excited about it because they also have a really nice structure. Steady Eddy has also done really great in repeat blooming in their trials. It is hardy in zones 5 through 8, so a smaller zone of hardiness just above me down through Alabama as well. And the height, it gets 4 foot to 5 foot tall and wide, so a pretty rounded structure. You can of course prune on these if you need to. Since it's a strong rebloomer, it would bloom on new growth as well, but the more pruning you do, the less blooms you'll probably have in general. Now we're going to get to some hydrangeas, which of course you know are my favorite thing. So we have 3 hydrangeas that I'm going to be trialing for Improving Winters this year. The first one is Invincibelle Sublime. I did get some hydrangeas in a fall video, which I'll try and remember to link below. I'm actually going to be trialing those this year too, but these are also some newer ones that I'm excited about trying out because there are 2 macrophyllas and 1 arborescence. And the first one I'm going to talk about is the arborescence. It's called Invincibelle Sublime, and it has beautiful lime green flowers, similar to what you've seen on my Incrediballs, but the blooms don't get as big, but they're still really beautiful lime green. And the interesting thing is the foliage itself is a darker color. It's almost so dark green that it appears kind of blue, and so it provides a nice contrast to those lime green blooms. This one is hardy in zones 3 through 9, so a really long, wide range of hardiness. Of course, if you live in those hotter zones, you just want to be able to provide them adequate moisture in the sun, and they will do well for you. Height is 3.5 to 5 foot tall and wide, so it's a little shorter than Invincibelle, which is good. I'm not sure I'm going to put this one yet. It might go up front too, since it is a smaller hydrangea. We can test it in more of a sunny location where some of my arborescents haven't done as well. So that'll be a good place to trial it at. It'll receive protection from the hot afternoon sun, which comes from this way, and a little protection after lunchtime as well. I of course don't recommend you plant arborescens probably on the south side of your house, especially really close to your house where it's going to get excess heat unless you just give it lots of moisture. The next hydrangea on my list is Let's Dance Arriba. Now I've seen this one. I have not found it locally, but I've seen it for a couple years online now, and it is a reblooming macrophylla. We discuss this quite often. If you're going to be planting a macrophylla in our zone, zone 6, really any zone I would recommend at this point would be to search out one that is reblooming and blooms on old growth and new wood. And the importance of that is because we have really cold winters here or really late freezes, and if your hydrangea macrophylla only blooms on old wood, those buds could die over winter or with a late freeze, and then you won't get any blooms at all. So you want to look for one that's reblooming, which a lot of the macrophyllas that are coming out now are reblooming. Why not get a hydrangea if you're in the market for one that reblooms? So this is a really interesting one because it only gets 2 to 3 foot tall and wide. It has a pretty good range of hardiness as well. Zone 4, so north of me, to zone 9, which covers most of the United States except the really coldest and hottest parts. And it says it will take full sun to part sun. Now I would never recommend a macrophylla for full sun, especially in Ohio full sun or the deep south full sun. You are gonna give these at least some protection from the really hot afternoon sun. If you don't, they may do okay, but they're going to require a lot of water and they're more likely to burn and wilt during the afternoon. Now the last one on my list is probably, I saved the best for last, let's say. It is called Let's Dance Skyview. Now Let's Dance Skyview is a really interesting reblooming hydrangea. It doesn't get that super dark deep blue. It's more of a sky blue, and that's why they call it sky blue, but it's supposed to have very consistent reblooming capabilities and as well as be really easy to turn blue. You know, in my garden I have higher pH. That makes hydrangeas want to turn pink or maybe like a purpley pink, depending on what pH it actually is. We also have hard water here in Southwest Ohio in my county, so you've got high pH soil, high pH water. Just a combination of those two things make it incredibly difficult to keep hydrangeas that change color like macrophyllas blue. And so even adding acid to the soil like Hollytone or soil acidifier, in most cases I've not been able to turn my hydrangeas blue. So this will be a really interesting one I'll be trialing as well. This one may also go up front because it only stays 2 to 3 foot tall and 2 to 4 foot wide. So it gets a little wider than it does tall, but not too much. Zones 4 through 9, so a really long, wide range of hardiness. And of course it's a macrophylla, so it has those really succulent leaves with those big mop head flowers. And that is the listing of plants that I'll be getting in from Spring Meadow Nursery, which is Proven Winners shrub department. And I think they'll come early May. They will be 1 gallon containers, so they're not going to be incredibly large, but they'll be a nice size to be able to plant in the ground easily and see how they perform year after year. All of these things will probably be getting drip irrigation, except some of the items around the oaks, simply because I don't have drip irrigation run in that location, and everything that I planted last year did pretty good there, so I don't think I'm going to be adding it. Like I mentioned, the next video I'm going to be going over some first edition shrubs that I'm going to be trialing as well this year. There's some older varieties on there, but also some new ones that are just coming out this year that are going to be really interesting. So stick around and follow along, and thank you for joining me. And remember, in a world full of hate, be a light. Take care, everyone. Bye.